Evening, all, and welcome to the Balls Out podcast and another Red Devils roundup. And yeah, it's the Europa League fallout. Joined by Jonathan, my partner in crime. How are you, mate? You good?
Yeah, good. It's Friday evening, so can't complain too much.
Friday evening. We were hoping to do this, obviously, on the back of a quite convincing victory. We said backstage it was vastly disappointing from even a neutral point of view. It was just shocking. And there's just no other way around to put it. It was just the game was awful. The goal we conceded was poor, and there isn't anyone that can really hold their heads high and say, "Oh yeah, we played well." Ahmad maybe 30 minutes, but apart from that, that was it.
Yeah, it was so bad and so disappointing for so many different reasons. Like you said there backstage, if it had been a belter of a game, and we just came out the wrong side of it, of course, it'd be still disappointing to lose and to lose to Spurs, but at least there's something coming out of the game. It was just the fact it was possibly one of the worst European finals I've ever seen in my entire life. And then like, we know how good a footballing side Spurs can be. They've torn us apart a few times over the last number of seasons. They didn't even do that. They were actually quite defensive. They were quite pragmatic. They had one shot on target. It was the decisive goal. We had 70% plus possession. We had 16 shots and still never looked like scoring. And I remember watching the goal going in, it dribbled over the line, and just thinking to myself, "My God, I think that's it." I felt like that was it. For some reason, I just felt like that was game over. I
Yeah,
could just see Spurs sitting back, protecting that lead, and even though it was the Europa League where we've scored quite a few goals this season, this team just speaks for itself. Their record speaks for itself. We just don't score goals, and it's been a problem. Like you can point the finger at Amorim and his system, but this has been a problem going back until since Ranić left the club. Really, I mean, you look at our goal differences in the two full seasons under Ten Hag. We
mm.
barely got into a plus in both seasons, in both full seasons. So goals have been a problem for this club regardless of formation and regardless of personnel. So when they fall behind, it's generally game over.
Yeah, and it's just from both sides. There was just no real. You could see that both teams were fighting, but it was a case of it's 16th versus 17th in the Premier
Mm.
League, and it really was like fire and ice. Like to concede such a poor goal in the first place, but we also knew that if that goal hadn't have gone in, there would have been a good chance that game could have just gone on all night, and it would
Yeah.
have just been 0-0
Mm-hmm.
and penalties. You can imagine it would have been a repeat of the Villarreal penalty shootout where it went like 11-12 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So obviously, it brings on the question of what next. Obviously, the league is done. We're so far behind the rest of the pack now, where even the idea of finishing in the top half of the table seems sort of beyond, not beyond, but it also seems like a bit of a reach.
Mm.
Because, like we've said in the past, if the bottom three were better, it could have been a real scary moment this season for sure. So, taken away from this season, there's really nothing to take away. There hasn't really been any standout talent. Obviously, all the youngsters that are coming through is always good, but they haven't been able to get enough minutes in like the earlier stages of the season. So it was only really when the Premier League was over and done with that we knew we weren't going down. We knew we weren't getting European football that way. So it was okay. I will chuck some young players out in that respect. There's not really any starting 11 players that can hold their heads held high in respect to the Europa League final. I think Bruno was really struggling in that central midfield role without having a runner in front of him, for sure. I think me and Mark have spoken in the past about having a Kobe Mainu in front of Bruno and Casemiro would have worked better purely because he can run but in small pockets, whereas Bruno can run and run and run, but then he can't do everything else. He can't then do the assisting, he can't then do the shooting and the scoring. So it's difficult. a lot of people on Twitter were sort of referring it to when the changes came. It felt really late, but nowhere near as late as Ollie left it, which was in something like the 112th minute of extra time against Villarreal. So it's there's really no positives to take away from it or from the season at all.
No, that's the thing. And for years as a football fan, I get angry at
Mm,
performances like that, and when we'd lose or draw or felt a refereeing decision went against you, I would get angry. It would ruin my day. I genuinely was in no way angry and haven't been at all this season. It's just that acceptance. Even Gary Neville hit on the head on the overlap when he said it's just that acceptance now that Man United are where they are. You don't get disappointed anymore. And
yeah,
you have to laugh at the media outlets in the UK when they're trying to make out, oh, Brentford got a big result at Old Trafford and Bournemouth won at Old Trafford. It's not news anymore. Man United
mm,
aren't what they were under Fergie. Old Trafford is not the theatre of dreams anymore. It's an absolute nightmare ground for Manchester United. Um, it's an easy 3 points now. It's an easy game for most teams that go there. I can't remember many victories at Old Trafford this season. It's scary. Like I could count on one hand the amount of times he won at Old Trafford this season. I
mm,
feel sorry for anyone who's traveling from around the world to see Man United play to these games, and you're not even seeing him score a goal. It's just there's no contest at all. So, like you said, the season has been a write off for a long while based on the fact that we were putting all our eggs in the Europa League basket. And we've gotten some good ties in the Europa League this year, which is why I think there was a lot of optimism about the final on Wednesday. I think we felt like we could separate that for one last big game and score a few goals and beat what was a weak and vulnerable Spurs team. Let's be honest, it wasn't even a full strength Spurs team. They were missing two of their best attackers in Madison and Kulusevski, and Son
yeah,
wasn't even 100%. He started on the bench, so they were there for the taking as well. And what we saw was the Premier League Man United. That's what turned up. The team we've been
yeah,
watching for 37 Premier League games this season, and yeah, it's crazy. I feel sorry for anybody who's going to that Villa game on Sunday because it is going to be possibly one of the worst games, one of the worst atmospheres. I don't even blame the players at this point for not even being up for Sunday. I wouldn't be surprised if
yeah,
Villa spank us on Sunday because they've got something to play for. This isn't a dead rubber. They're fighting for Champions League and they've got dangerous players. And if there isn't some sort of head screwed in there on Sunday, we could get a real trimming there because they're going to be rootless. So
yeah,
yeah, like you said, mate, there's very little. There's no positives that you can take from the season. I've said it to you on a few shows this season. The only positive I could see with us not being in Europe next year is the weeks
yeah,
that Cameron would have to work with the squad, which is a plus. And I think he'd know that himself deep down. It gives us an opportunity to trim the squad, which is good because we don't have the money there to actually bulk buy and have a big squad capable of challenging on both fronts. But the financial hit the club has taken now is just it's seismic, and it wasn't just fans. You can see it on the players. I think they know deep down in the club themselves as players how bad that financial
yeah,
situation is. So they know what's coming. I think there's going to be a massive summer of change ahead this year. So yeah, like it's probably the worst situation the club has been in my lifetime supporting them. I know they've been
no,
relegated. That was before my lifetime, but
yeah,
it's definitely the
no,
worst position the club has ever been in my lifetime.
yeah, without question. Is like you said, the fact of not having Champions League football, and it's nothing to do with attracting certain talent. It's got
No,
nothing to do with sponsors or anything. It is purely financial,
yeah,
and losing out on TV money and revenue just by getting to Champions League is massive.
hmm
It's just we knew the season was going to be a struggle. I think a lot of us knew when Ten Hag kept his job after
yeah,
the FA Cup final. I think a lot of us thought this might be a real struggle this season.
hmm
I think a lot of us thought if he managed to stay the whole season, we would probably be because we finished eighth last year and won
yeah.
an FA Cup. I think if we were hoping of 10th and no silverware, you'd probably be like, okay, that's a shit season. I don't think anyone could have possibly predicted out of the League Cup, out of the FA Cup, near enough relegation fodder if it wasn't for the three teams going down. I apologise if you're watching this and you're thinking this is a bit of a negative show, but like we've said, there really is no positive spin that we can put on this. And I know the 1958 group, they've got big things planned for Sunday, and I wish them all the best for that, because there is seriously something wrong at this club, and it is so heart destroying. Not even the fact that we lost the game. You know, you can take a loss in a final, but you can now see that we're now going to be facing a long summer, a real long summer. Like, there was news today of more redundancies. Not on the back of us. Apparently, these redundancies were already planned for. It's got nothing to do with the fact that we went out of the Champions League, but it's just poor timing. So now we look bad on that respect. They still had the barbecue yesterday, which is pathetic. That's just another thing to throw at us, apparently for staff and players. Apparently, a lot of the players didn't bother with it, which, you know, I'd be embarrassed to show my face back at the training ground after that. Which brings us on to what I want to talk about is like you just said, the trim down, because we don't need a big squad next year.
No.
If we take into account we're now only playing in 3 competitions: Premier League, FA Cup, and the League Cup. Let's move the League Cup to one side for a minute. FA Cup and the Premier League, we should be focusing. Oh no, I'm going to bring League Cup first, actually. Sorry. League Cup, I purely want to use as an opportunity for our reserves, under 21s, youngsters. Because if we make a challenge, heaven forbid we make a challenge to get back into Europe the season after, we are good, because now we've not got that financial buffer this year. We're not going to get the TV revenue next year, because obviously the TV revenue from playing on a Thursday night in the Europa League, the odd game would then be shown on a Sunday, and we would get TV revenue from that. There's a good chance next year 90% of our games are going to be 3 o'clock kickoffs on a Saturday, because we've got nothing to play for.
Mm-hmm.
And there's going to be more teams we've got 6, 7, 8 teams now in Europe. So there's going to be a lot of chopping and changing. So there's going to be a lot of United games that are going to be 3 o'clock on a Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
So in that respect, you then lose money. So the season after is massive, because if we can somehow get back into Europe, whether it's Europa League or the Premier League, Champions League, we're going to then need to build a League Cup style squad and build up to get them ready to then say, right, you're now going to be moved into the Premier League side near the end of next season, as in the season coming, and then we're going to build you up into the Champions League. And because this is a massive, massive rebuild. Like, we knew we needed, and we've kept saying it's a project, it's a rebuild, it's been happening for a long time, we've been talking about it. The missing out of Champions League football is now, because let's be honest, no one in their right mind thought that if we got into the Champions League, we could win it.
No.
Like, we all joked about it and say, "Oh, how great would it be if we win the FA Cup, get into the Europa League, win the Europa League, get into the Champions League, and win that." We can all laugh about it and joke about it, but it's quite clearly obvious that we are so far behind anyone else. It was never going to happen. So, yeah, let's talk about the trim down. So, out of that starting 11, we've spoken about this on our WhatsApp group. Realistically, how many would you keep? Do you want me to get the? Shall I get the start?
I'm trying to think. I'll get you. So Nana will be gone for me anyway. I wouldn't be keeping him. Euro 100%. You've got to build your defense around him. As I touched on in the WhatsApp group as well, how long we can keep hold of him with performances like this and seasons out of Europe, we'll see. He's still only 19, so look, he's still developing. But definitely him. Maguire this summer, I think Maguire has turned his form around. He's definitely an important player. I think Amarim rates him, and the 3 at the back system definitely suits him. So I'll be definitely keeping Harry Maguire around. Luke Shaw, I think, has got to go. He should never have started on Wednesday night. Great player, unfortunately, that injury in 2015 just really hampered what was going to be a promising career, and he just never really recovered from it. I mean, Jose came out years ago and loving or hating him. He said that Luke Shaw didn't have the mentality of the Man United player, and he's still here 7 years later. So I think that just epitomises the club. But I think he's got to move on. He even spoke in that interview after the game with Andy Mitten, and he said that, like, we've got to question whether we're good enough to be at the club. And you wonder, is there a bit of self-doubt there? Is he thinking to himself, God, if I get myself a nice move to Italy there, I think he'd be a great player in a slower league. And,
Yeah, MLS, Italy,
yeah, exactly. He's not up to this standard anymore. Midfield, then you've got Casemiro, who he's improved, but okay, he could play a part when we're only playing one game a week.
he disappeared in the final. He did.
Yeah, and that's a man who's won several Champions League trophies and numerous finals, and we needed him on Wednesday.
There was a lot of emphasis on big game players, that we had big game players. You could talk about people like Shaw, Maguire, Fernandes, and Casemiro as those 4 big game players. Even Mason Mount, who's won a Champions League. Like, these are players that should have been stepping up. Maguire, you could probably say he didn't really have anything to do. He didn't really do anything wrong. Like you just said, Shaw is just not up to the level anymore. But Casemiro was the biggest surprise, especially how he's really stepped up in the last few weeks. But
yeah. I thought he looked a bit exposed without Ugarte beside him. I thought they'd been playing quite well in the Europa League together, so I was surprised not to see Ugarte get any minutes on Wednesday. That was a bit of a strange one, but Casemiro, if we got a decent offer for him in the summer, I think he'd go, and I think the club would take the money at this point. Bruno beside him, that's probably the biggest one now at the moment, because there's a real question mark over Bruno. I don't think any Man United fan would want to sell Bruno. There's absolutely no doubt about that. He's our most talented player, and he's got the highest standards at the club. But I see reports there this evening. Chris Wheeler in the Mail has said that United are preparing themselves for £100 million offer from Saudi Arabia from Bruno. I think the package with wages and everything could reach 300 million. So it looks like they're putting a massive deal together there. And realistically, if you get offered £100 million for a 30-year-old who's 31 in September, and United are in the financial situation that they're in, they might have no choice but to just accept an offer there reluctantly. So I wouldn't sell Bruno. I would keep Bruno if we could keep him, but
it's difficult to turn down £100 million.
Absolutely, yeah. Dorgu, obviously I would keep. He's a young chap. I like his athleticism. He looks promising. He's very raw still, but definitely keep him. Mazraoui I would keep too. I thought he was kind of shafted the other night. He was just thrown into the right wing back position, having played most of the season since Amarin came in as right centre back. So that was under a strange call for me. I know Dalot wasn't 100% fit, but he could have put Ahmad at right wing back, in my opinion. It would have been more dangerous running from deep. So that was a bit of a strange call, but definitely keep Mazraoui. I think he's been one of the signings of the season, not just for United. I think in the Premier League, we paid about £15 million for him, and he's been really consistent, a tidy footballer, and definitely keep him around. Ahmad, definitely keep him. He's been one of our brightest players this year. I think he would have been player of the season after Bruno. If Bruno had a poor season, he definitely would have been the player of the season, I think, despite missing 6 or 7 weeks there in the middle. Højlund, I wouldn't sell Højlund. I was saying this to the lads on the preview, and I think I said it to you last week as well. I wouldn't sell Højlund because at the moment, I think his stock is a bit low, and you're not going to get any sort of decent money for him. I would definitely find a good loan from him. I think you'd get a decent loan for him in maybe in Italy or Germany, and if he stitched in 18 to 20 goals, you might be able to get 40 million from the next summer and hopefully break even on the PSR. But I would definitely be trying to get him out the door this summer because he's drowning at Man United. He needs a change of scenery now. The size of the club and the weight of wearing that number 9 shirt and leading the line at 22 years of age is really coming down on him now. And you can see it's all in his head. I think Rasmus has got very good ability, but it's all in his head now, and it's weighing too much on him. So I think a loan will do him good. And then Mason Mount, it's a toss of a coin for me. I think Mount has ability, but I just don't know, has he suffered too much injuries already at a young age, and he's just very inconsistent. It's a hard one to call. Who would buy him, and what sort of money would you get for him? That's the question. If we got a decent fee, if we got offered 25 million for Mount in the summer, I probably would take it and get rid of him, because I just don't see, like, we've Colby there, who I think could play as 10. Cunha looks like that deal is nearly done. So I think we're kind of stacked in that 10 position. And I think we could do with selling him. We don't need many squad players, as you just touched on, with the smaller season. So if I received a good offer for Mount, I'd get rid of him as well. So what's that? You're talking Euro, Maguire, Dorgu, Mazraoui, and Ahmad I keep, and then obviously Bruno is the toss of a coin. So
yeah, it's very difficult. It really is. I probably agree with everything. I would like, if I'm with you with Mount, obviously it's very difficult to know how severe that injury is proving to be. Obviously, he's shown some form recently, played some good minutes. Obviously, the win against Bilbao, he was very, very influential in that in the second leg. I agree 100% with Højlund. I would love to see him improve and get better, but I just don't see him improving or getting better in this system in a United shirt.
No.
I think he needs to go out on loan to maybe a sort of a Southampton, Leicester, whoever's gone down from the Premier League, to hopefully maybe even somewhere like Ipswich. Even if we were going to take Liam Delap, if Liam Delap wanted to come to us at this particular point in time, if we were buying Delap, maybe we could offer them Højlund as a sort of like loan deal till January, see how he gets on.
Yeah.
With an extension to the end of the season if they wanted. That could be something they might work on. I doubt it. I really struggle with Højlund. You know, we've tried so hard to defend him all season, sort of saying surely it's just got to be that he's not getting the service, but it's quite clearly that he's just not able to get himself into the game either at this point. Amad Diallo, I think we've really got to work on him. He's definitely a talent. And yeah, Bruno Fernandes is toss of a coin, like you say. 100 million apparently from Saudi Arabia. Deadline apparently is the end of next week because they want to make a big statement signing before the Club World Cup. I think if it was up to us, if it was up to United, I think they would take it, but I don't think Bruno would want to take it. I get the impression. I could be wrong. You never know with these people. Yeah. When they get an offer of £65 million a year, like no one's stupid enough to not take it. Like footballers have such a short career as it is. To be offered a 3-year deal, £65 million a year, you'd be stupid not to.
And he could probably come back to Europe realistically after 3 years and still have a couple of seasons left. Maybe not the Premier League, but in Spain or somewhere like that as well. So it's a no-brainer.
I wouldn't be surprised if we either see Casemiro go somewhere like Saudi or the MLS or probably South America. Luke Shaw, I think unfortunately his days are very much numbered. He's got no real pace, no real forward ability. I said in the group chat when we were watching the game, he was just stopping everything from going forward. You know, Dorgu was making really good opportunital runs and Shaw was just stopping and passing it sideways or backwards, and it was just so frustrating to watch. So yeah, we're really. I think the players that will definitely go are Shaw. I wouldn't be surprised if we keep Onana, sell Bayern and get a number one, or Bayern gets promoted and sell Onana and get a new number two. Although Bayern hasn't really given us a chance to sort of say, yeah, he's our new number one either. So we're really lacking in the two goalkeeper situation.
Yeah.
Obviously, there was talk last week of Emi Martinez. I can't really see that materialising. It seems a bit of a long shot. Someone was obviously throwing a dart at a player in a football club on their dartboard and saying, right, let's start a rumour. So, yeah, I would be very surprised if that materialised. There's a particular player who didn't start who has caused quite the headlines. Let's get rid of that now. And that's Alejandro Garnacho. He got a little bit upset that he wasn't picked. Went onto social media and basically posted a load of pictures of him scoring in finals and all the stuff that he's contributed to the Europa League campaign. Got a little bit frustrated, and it's just like basically saying that we've played shit all season. We're not good enough, and I wasn't picked in the final. It's like, well, that to me screams transfer request or we're booting you out. We're taking the first offer we get for you. I was so annoyed with the kid because that is literally all he is. He is a kid. Like, we've had this in the past with real big talent like Rude, like even Wayne Rooney to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Even, I mean, I know Fergie obviously got him under control and he stayed, but obviously David Beckham with all the sort of like when he was getting too big for his boots. It's just you can't have players starting to throw their toys out the pram just because they weren't picked. And admittedly, yes, he made he made a difference, but it wasn't enough. And we've all moaned about his final third thinking all season. What do you do with Garnacho? Are you in the same camp? Do you sell him or?
Yeah, I think that's what when Amarim said it there last week or the week before. The club has to be brave this summer. I think he's referencing the fact that the club has a reputation for trying to hold on to players that, okay, look like they've got the talent, but don't necessarily have the right attitude. And we've no doubt there's a talented player in there, inconsistent, but there's a talented boy in there. But your attitude's not right, you're not going to make it at the top. Like, I mean, he's openly admitting that the club has had a shit season, and okay, he's scored a few goals and assisted, but like, you started most of those games. You were part of the reason we've had a shit season. Don't just stand back and act like it's everyone else's problem because you stand on the wing and run at the defense. You're part of the fucking problem. Every one of you take responsibility for your own actions. You're part of this club, you're part of the squad.
Yeah,
And like you, I was feeling shit anyway after the final. And then about an hour later, you see these quotes coming out, and it's like, if I could pick a snapshot of this club in the last 13 years to sum it up, it would be just that right there. Just players not taking accountability,
yeah,
bad attitudes. That's why the club is just toxic. And I think I said to the guys that are there on the preview, it's been painful with Ruben coming in midway through the season, and it's been shocking. But he's discovered now how bad this club is. He's seen the viruses, the bad eggs in that basket. If he was only coming in now in the summer, we'd have to start this process all over again.
yeah,
It would take him months to find out like what the issues were at Rashford with Garnacho, and then you're stuck mid-season with these players. At least now he knows, and that's what he's talking about. The club needs to be brave, and
yeah,
to be fair, I think regardless of him saying that, they were going to sell Garnacho anyway. There was definitely offers there in January, and I think the fact that there was an urgency to get Rashford out because of the issues that were going on there, and obviously Anthony went out. They were already down Jadon Sancho. We couldn't afford to lose Garnacho as well because we couldn't afford to replace them all midway through the season. We were short enough as it was, so there was probably a gentleman's agreement there. I think somewhat in that, look, stay here, put your head down, work, and we'll sell you then in the summer. And I think he's out the door. I don't think he'll be involved at all on Sunday. And it's a shame because he looked such a talented player, and you know the way he broke onto the scene, and he's such a raw talent. And you think back to that goal he scored last season against Everton, but at the same time, Fergie said it: once a player outgrows the club, it doesn't matter who they are, they have got to be gone, because once they start undermining the manager, that's it.
yeah,
They're gone. And we've seen bigger and better players, like you said, go out the door, and we were sick as Man United fans, and you were kind of questioning Fergie as to why can't you reconcile with these players. Well, he continued to be successful after these players went. I mean, you saw Yap Stam go, as you said, Beckham, Ronaldo, Rooney. Okay, Rooney turned around, but Rude, like Varane to an extent, Gabriel Ainse, it all happened, but Fergie won, and it was because of that. Didn't give in to player power, so it's important now the club back Ruben. And look, they'll probably have to sell Garnacho because he represents pure profit on the balance sheet anyway. And if we get a bid of about 50 million for him in the summer, that's massive profit on our balance sheet. And I think the same would be said for Rashford. I don't think Villa are going to take up the option on him. It looks like Barca are kind of sniffing there. I just hope the club can find a solution where he's just sold and it's just cut from the club, because if it's another loan with an option to buy, it's just prolonging that. I just think player and club now just need a fresh start completely and just move on altogether. And if we could get about between 30 and 40 million pound for Marcus in the summer, again, it's pure profit. And it's again what Ruben is referencing, being brave, because I think he knows that the club probably has an inkling that they can't buy too many players in the summer, and they're probably itching to bring Rashford back and try and reconcile between the manager and player. But we saw how that worked out with Sancho and Eric Ten Hag last year. We all thought it was rosy in the garden, and then 4 weeks later he was gone on loan to Chelsea. So yeah, the club just need to be brave this summer and just cut ties with these players, and we need to be ruthless.
Yeah, I completely agree. The ruthlessness is going to be, and I said it in the group chat, just trying to find buyers for, I think, a lot of our deadwood is going to be the biggest challenge. We can list these players for transfers. You're talking about the likes of Lindelof, Evans will go on a free.
Eriksen has gone on a free as well.
Yeah, Eriksen goes on a free. Garnacho, trying to sell Sancho, obviously that's obviously going to be a Germany or an MLS
Mm.
or even a Saudi if he's lucky. You
Hmm.
know, even with his form, he's probably not getting many offers from Saudi.
No.
Rashford, obviously, that I think there'll be takers. It looks like you say, Barcelona are sort of umming and ahhing about it. They haven't really confirmed or said anything, but I think he's holding out more hope than anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be a huge season. What about with the arrival of Cunha? There's a little bit of trepidation with his sort of attitude and work ethic. And Mark mentioned it, I think, on your preview show
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
about his sort of. Is he just now going to get a chance to play for Manchester United, but not play for? Do you get what I mean? Like he's not now going to push on and sort of see how he does, or do we think we're going to see a little bit of hopefully a spark from him?
It's hard to say, and definitely the off-field issues and that edge are a concern. Um, we've seen it in the past. We think we're getting the right player with the right attitude, and it just turns out, like you said, they think they've arrived. They're at Man United. That's it. They've met it. I
Yeah,
don't need to win anything. I'm at Man United. I'm brilliant. My brand goes through the roof. I can start selling clothes in America because I play for Man United. You know, I don't know. He seems to have a hunger about him, which is nice, and he has an edge to him, which you can see in some South American players that have this rawness to them that I like, and he's got an edge to him. And it looks like Ruben. He's been caught having a few conversations with him this season. It looks like he's kind of done his due diligence with him, and look, there's no guarantee he won't cause some kind of issues. You can't account for every possibility down the line, but you like to think that he's going to come in with a point to prove, and give us something different. Like I said to you, though, I think he's a good player and he definitely offers a different goal scoring threat. But I mentioned it on the show a couple of weeks ago. I think our biggest issue is in the DM position. I mean, we started the final the other night with Casemiro, whose legs are going, and with Bruno Fernandes, who's definitely a better 10. And they were our 6 and our 8 the other night, and Ugarte was on the bench. And outside of those three, there's no one really else at the club that Ruben fancies to play in those 6 and 8 positions. So I think we need to invest in a proper number 6 or number 8 this summer as well with legs. I know we've been linked with Ederson from Atalanta, but I mean, we need athleticism in that middle of the field. We struggle with it for so long. I mean, you can have the best number 10 in the world or the best striker in the world, but if you're getting outrun and outmaneuvered in the middle of the park, it means nothing. It means
yeah,
nothing. You can't get the ball to them. It's as simple as that. It doesn't matter what formation you play. It's called the engine room for a reason, and we don't have an engine at the moment. And that's something I think we really need to address this summer. I haven't seen us linked with too many players outside Ederson at Atalanta, which concerns me in the DM positions. It's only really been Cunha and Delap. But look, maybe that was based upon the fact that we didn't really know what kind of budget we're working with. But yeah, I like Cunha. I think he's done really well at Wolves this season. I just hope he doesn't arrive at the club and just sink and disappear like other signings that have done well with other clubs and just evaporate at Man United. But he seems to have a bit of grit about him, which is nice and it's refreshing. I think he'll give the fans something to get behind. I could see him you could see him in Anfield now squaring up to Andy Robertson in a Merseyside in a derby and just fucking bringing something different, getting fans off their seat and just looking like he cares. So look, hopefully so.
yeah. I worry a little bit in like you just mentioned there. Obviously, that's not a position that we're particularly lacking in.
Yeah.
But do you think maybe there's an element of they've fast tracked it because they were preparing themselves for this Bruno bid?
Yeah, potentially.
I hope not, because I'm hoping that maybe the fact that Bruno stays at the club is a little bit of, Cunha's coming in alongside Bruno. Do you get what I'm saying? Maybe a little
Yeah.
bit of.
I think, like you said there, I don't know, was it forward planning? Like, I mean, it's rare that like a bid of the size that we're seeing coming from Saudi Arabia just arrives overnight. This didn't just arrive today.
Yeah,
There's generally intermediaries, third
conversations.
parties, unofficial talks, all that sort of thing. And the way Bruno's body language was the other night and the way he was speaking kind of would suggest that if we'd have won and we're in the Champions League and the money had come, and obviously then he's playing in Europe's elite competition with Man United, a club that he loves. It's like, yeah, I can stay here, I can continue here. Whereas with him, it seemed like there was a resignation here that like, shit, someone has said to him, look, basically, Bruno, if we lose this final, we're going to have to sell you, because they knew that this bid was coming. And you could see it when he said it. It was like, I want to stay, basically, but if someone else decides that I have to go,
Yeah.
and I'll go. It was almost as if he was putting it on the club that, look, if they do accept the bid, this isn't on me. I want to stay, but I'm going to have to go. So there's a lot of smoke here. That was like, there's some sort of fire. There's something brewing there. Um, like, it's going to be a real kick in the nuts to the club. When fans are already down, it's horrible. But then to lose your captain and one of our best players in years, our best player since Ferguson left, it would be a real blow. But yeah, you could be right with that. It could be the case that Cunha was earmarked as that Bruno replacement because they knew this bid was coming.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult. G-Day or Jide, I hope I got your name right, but he mentioned that we need to address the manager issue. The reason we haven't brought up the manager issue is because it's quite clear from Jim and Ineos that then they've got no intentions of replacing Ruben. It seems very clear that they're backing him in the summer to do whatever he's got to do. But I do think that if it gets to December and we are in deep shit, then there is a good chance they'll pull the trigger, and then we're just starting this whole process over and over again. It could get ugly really quickly, or with the right recruitment in the summer and the right sort of game plan, we could see improvements. I'm not expecting, like we said at the start of the show, I'm not expecting to fly up the league table now into fourth position and stay there. I'm expecting it to be a real shitty season, but hopefully one that we can sort of get a little bit engaged with, because I've been saying for months that I've just checked out of the Premier League. And it's such a shame because, there's so many people that really look forward to watching United on the weekend. It's what they live for. And at one point, that's what I lived for. But this season, I've just completely checked out. And I hope, that's my main hope next year, that it gets me a little bit more excited to watch United again in the summer in the Premier League. Even though Mark is either on his way to Ibiza or in Ibiza, he's still decided to tune in.
He's definitely in Ibiza.
What a legend. 300 million in this club's hands scares me that we will waste it on the wrong mentality, weak players and not fighters. Yeah. No, I know what you mean. It's scary, but hopefully that maybe with the right earmarks and the right people, I can't imagine it being many players from outside sort of the European leagues. To be honest, I could imagine. I really struggle if we buy more than just Cunha and Delap. If that was the only two players we bought, that wouldn't surprise me in the slightest.
If that's all we buy in the summer, we're screwed already. There's no doubt they're two good players, and I think especially Delap will definitely give us something different up front. But he's not going to transform the system. We need much more. I mean, the goalkeeper is a glaring issue. Like, I mean, the defense is the foundation of your team, and the goalkeeper is a part of that. And even for the goal the other night, I mean, it bobbled in low, but he looked like he just dived on the spot. He dived at the ball after it was in the net. It was absolutely crazy. It wasn't if the ball was moving at high speed or took several bobbles. It bobbled off Luke Shaw's leg and it was moving in one direction. Brennan Johnson flicked it, but it didn't change direction an awful lot after that. So a better keeper saving that. So I think it doesn't matter who it is. I've seen his link with Aaron Ramsdale. Like, I mean, doesn't fill you with confidence either, but we need a change between the sticks. There's no doubt about that. And buying there isn't the answer there either. But yeah, in terms of incomings, I think isn't Diego Leon he's already coming in from South America, the Paraguayan left back. They had agreed a deal to sign him. So he'll be coming in, but like that, he's 18. He's not going to come in and transform the team. He'll probably play reserve for a little while, might train with the first team, and then probably get a loan either in January or next year, depending on how good or bad he does. But no, we need. This is one of the most important. We've said this so many times over the last 10 years or so. This is the most important transfer window, but I think this is a hell of an important transfer window, and it's for outgoings as well as ingoings. This squad needs gutting now. We're looking at too many of the same faces that have failed for too long now, and I think Barada said it in an interview there last year. The club had a habit of holding on to players that they hoped would come good, and he said he was going to have an attitude basically of that they're going to have 1.5, maybe 2 seasons to prove they're good enough for Man United, and after that they're gone. And this is his chance to prove that now. You can't be inconsistent at this club. You're going to have bad games. Of course, you are. The best players in the world have off days, but you've got to be at a 7 or 8 out of 10 at this football club at least 70 or 80% of the time. You can. You've got to be at the top of your game most of the time at this football club. And if you're not, then you're not good enough to play for the football club. It's as simple as that. And the club has got to be ruthless now. That's what I'm saying in terms of never mind incomings, in terms of outgoings. They've just got to get rid of the deadwood now. I think, like we said, like Luke Shaw, he's a year left on his contract. Previously, we would have just let him run that down, use him as a squad player. I think we just got to get him gone. Just get him out. He's not contributing. We're paying him wages. He'd be on a decent wage. Just gone. I think Dallo as well. He's a good player. He's a fit player, but he's not a Man United right back. And if we got an offer for him this summer, gone. We've just got to be ruthless now. We've got to be looking for players that we can build a future around and look like they can bring the club forward. It's hugely important. It really is. And if we get this summer wrong, like you said, we're going to end up with Ruben struggling around Christmas time, sacking him and starting all over again.
Yeah, Mark says Martinez, Gyökeres, Cunha maybe, but we need engines. We said earlier, I think Martinez is just a complete waste of time. I don't think that's an even tenuous link. I think that's just one of those Wesley Sneijder situations. Once again, Gyökeres, he looks pretty nailed on to be going to Arsenal. They're expecting a sort of agreement in principle in the next week or so. I think Cunha is the only sort of 100% nailed on signing that we've made. Liam Delap apparently has got the choice of Newcastle, Chelsea and us. I think he's obviously waiting until after Sunday to make his decision. I don't think he'll end up going to Newcastle because if you've got Isak up front, what's the point of going to Newcastle and not actually playing? Chelsea, I mean, he'll be in one of their 2 squads because obviously they've got massive squads, so they'll be able to, if they're in the Europa or the Champions League next year, they'll be able to do what they did this year and just switch 11 for 11 out. But yeah, he echoes what you said, 2 engines, go box to box for the 90 minutes. I think that's pretty clear. Jai Judo, team needs rebuild, but I'm worried because Amorim is not adopting EPL. And I'm not going to read the rest of that because it's a ridiculous comment. I don't think that anything like that will happen. And getting a manager like that is just idiotic at this point. Unless we're in a relegation battle potentially, but there we are. So I think we're all agreed that it's a massive, massive summer. Who are you starting on Sunday? Are you just purely throwing everyone out? we're so desperate for this season to be over. It's just been. I'm hoping to wake up and it's like we've just won the FA Cup again. I've just woken up from just a horrendous 18-month nightmare. So I'm assuming if it was me, I'm taking everyone that played on Wednesday out of the firing line and just saying, right, go. Just leave the club, get your head straight, and some of you will come back, some of you won't. Bearing in mind they're going to Kuala Lumpur in a week's time. Like, that's pathetic and ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, is it me or are you just playing 11 under-21s and buying deer pretty much?
Yeah, I don't see the point in playing, like you said, any of the players from Wednesday night. Like you can talk about under-20s and under-18s not been ready for this level. These guys aren't ready for this level anymore. They're just, the psychological place that these players are in now, you might as well put young players out, because at least they'll play without fear and whatever. There's no benefit from playing any of those guys from the other night. Maybe Ahmad you might put in there, or Euro, someone. But then again, Euro, how fit was he the other night as well? And you could risk giving him a really serious injury. So
Yes, we
yeah,
have, and we agree.
yeah,
He shouldn't be allowed anywhere near the ground anymore.
yeah. I don't think he'll be involved at all. I think we've seen him play his last game for Man United. To be honest, I think it'd be senseless playing him on Sunday. But yeah, it'd be nice to see the likes of Aiden Heaven get a game on Sunday. I'd like to see Toby Collier, if he's fit, to put him in the middle of the park as well.
Yeah.
He's got legs and he gives it a go. I'd like to see Ugarte start as well. I like him. I'd like to see Ericsson start as well. He's been a decent servant, to be fair, since he's come in on a free. He suffered a few injuries. I think the issues probably caught up with him this season and last season. But the first season, he was very, very important, to be fair to him, and he's been a good professional. And I'd like to see him get a good send off on Sunday. I'd like to see Chidi Obi start on Sunday as well, and maybe Xerxes in one of the tens. I like Xerxes in the 10. He's a good footballer, and you could see that the night really hurt him. He was crying on the pitch, and he kind of gets it. He gets what it means to play for this club. I like him a lot. He's got a lot of criticism this year, but I like the way he's bounced back from that. And he didn't go off and piss to the media about it. He put his head down, worked hard, and he's got a good attitude. And the fans love him now because of that. And that's all fans want, is that.
That's all we've asked for. Yeah,
exactly. That's it. And like to see, I'd like to Harry Amass and that getting games on Sunday. That's what it's about. Like, if that team is named on Sunday and you're seeing Onana in goal, and Maguire starting again, and Bruno in the deep, and it's just
let them start their holiday now. Just honestly, because they are going to get such a shit reception anyway.
Yeah.
At Old Trafford, and even like the little things like clapping the fans as you're walking off at the end of the game as sort of a lap of honour. There's no point. It'll be empty by the 80th minute.
Yeah,
like, just don't bother.
Yeah.
As much as it's difficult to say, as much as you feel a little bit guilty for it, but these players get paid a hell of a lot of money, and all we asked for 90 minutes on Wednesday night was a bit of passion and a bit of fight, and that would have won the game. It had nothing to do with Ange Postecoglou.
No.
A lot has been made that he changed his tactics for the first time this year just to win. It had nothing to do with that. It's just that United didn't turn up. Spurs didn't even turn up. It was just a poor game.
Yeah.
And I just hope that, even part of me thinks, if the Champions League final is any godsend, hopefully it's just 100 times better than that was. And even the Europa Conference League. That's another player, Anthony. He might win a trophy this year. Just got so much dead wood and so many players that are on the cusp. It's just crazy. Do we bother with predictions? 4-0 Villa?
Yeah, it could be anything. It really could. It's what, like, I think we've seen over the years, the last day of the season really throws up some really strange results. I mean, you think of the Stoke and Liverpool game and Gerrard's last game at the Britannia Stadium, like, what was it, 5-1 or something in the end? It was crazy. So it can throw up these. We could be Villa 4-0 on Sunday. It could be a shock, but no, I think a Villa win. I think it's just, you're just waiting for the season to be over, and just compounded that we'll lose probably 3-0 to Villa. Spurs will pick up a result, and we'll end up just finishing 17th and just put the fucking icing on an absolutely septic cake this season.
Absolutely. This won't be the last show before the end of the season. We're going to hope. Well, I say end of the season. This is the last show before the end of the season, but we'll do one as a sort of review of the game, and we'll talk a little bit more. And then throughout the summer, we'll do transfer shows. I've actually written, and I haven't actually told you about this yet. I've actually written a fucking, if I do say so myself, a banging quiz at the end of the season. So I'm not going to blow my own trumpet, but it is brilliant. So we're definitely going to do that. I'll probably save that for when Mark's back from his holiday.
Yeah.
We'll do that. That'll be really good fun as a sort of thank you, because, there's been a bit of a graft, this channel, and, we're finally starting to reap the rewards, and we really appreciate everyone just getting involved. And of course, if you don't agree with anything we've said, just get in touch with us on Twitter. And if you want to get involved, we're recruiting as always. So just slide into our DMs. One of us will get back to you. We'll add you into the group chat, and you can just, whenever you're available, jump on shows and have your opinions on Manchester United or just the Premier League in general.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's our Friday evening. I hope you enjoy the rest of your Friday evening, everyone, and we will see you next time.